Hey guys, Mr. Vanesti, just going to go over a couple of things, and I want to show you the while loop. Before I do that, I just want to make sure that everybody understands how they're going to upload work to Moodle. Okay, the important thing is you cannot give me the solution file. You can't really give me all of the files for the Visual Studio solution. It's just too many files to deal with, and it's too big. The easiest thing to get around this is to basically go to your folder, okay, your labs folder, whatever assignment it is, go to the folder, open it up, okay, so you're in the secondary subfolders, you'll see the solution file, and on top of that you're going to see a folder, another folder. This folder is going to have the same name as the top folder, whatever you called your project. When you click on that folder, you're gonna be able to find the program.cs file right here, okay. Now if you are not seeing the .cs part, it might be because your file name extension is turned off. You just simply go up, click on the View tab, go over to here, look for these checkboxes. You'll see file name extension. If it's off like this, just click it to turn it back on. You'll see the files. You'll see the file name extensions. Okay. The file that I need is program.cs. You're going to need to take that file, copy it, and or you can paste it right into Moodle, okay, where I have the uploads. Okay, if you aren't sure about that, let me just move this over to here so you can see it. I'm going to go to one of the upload links that I have. Okay, to upload, you're just going to click on the link. I have this as a teacher view. Let me just switch it over to student view. You'll see this add submitting button, and all you're really going to do is just simply take your file and you can just simply drag it over to here to this box and just upload it. Okay, save changes. It'll ask if you want to upload, and then you're just going to follow the prompts to upload. Okay, the next thing I want to do is talk a little bit about the while loop. Okay, what we did before, we looked at the for loop, and the for loop is a loop that we can use to run code a specific number of times. Part of the for loop is a counter, which we've seen. A counter just basically you're just seeing a counter run the loop, okay, specified number of times. The while loop is a little bit different. It can work exactly the same as a for loop, but the while loop actually runs the code inside of the loop until a certain condition is false. Okay, as long as whatever you're evaluating is true, the loop will continue. Okay, so again, it's going to run a block of code as long as a specified expression evaluates to true. Okay, we may or may not use a counter in a while loop. It's not always necessary. Okay, so the one thing I wanted to just kind of, I'll show you a couple of ways to do the while loop and how it works. Okay, so in my code here, I'm just going to start by creating a while loop. And before I do that, I'm going to just introduce you quickly to a new data type called a bool, which is a Boolean value. Okay, now don't worry too much about this. I'm not going to ask you to do this in the labs. It's just useful for me to use these data types to show you how the while loop works, and I'm also going to do it with a counter. The first while loop I'm not going to use a counter, but I'm going to use these data types called bools. Now bools are data types that evaluate either to true or false. Okay, it's an off or on situation. Okay, you cannot put any values into a bool other than true or false. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to create a Boolean value, and I'm going to call it like cheeseburgers. Okay, so you'll notice that you see the Boolean value here. You see the file, the data type. Excuse me. It's bool. Okay, just like int or string or double or float. Okay, after the data type is indicated by bool, I'm just going to simply make a name for it. I'm just going to call it something like cheeseburgers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this using the assignment operator here. I'm going to set it to the keyword true. Okay, so like cheeseburgers is a Boolean variable or Boolean value that has been set to true. Okay, all right, I'm going to do another one. I'm probably just going to make a string variable that I'm going to use inside of my loop that I'm going to use to gather data from my user, my program user. And I'm going to call this one full yet. And I'm going to set it to no initially. Okay, and that's just a regular string variable, which we're all familiar with. Okay, now I'm going to start my loop. So right here, I'm going to use the keyword while, and I'm going to put inside of parentheses, following the while, I'm going to put the condition to be evaluated. All right, in this case, all I have to do is just type in the like cheeseburgers, if I spell it right, bool data type, the bool variable, like cheeseburgers. So what this is actually just asking is this true? Is like cheeseburgers true? And then since I set it to true up here, it's true. Okay, so we actually have the potential to have a infinite loop. Okay, but we're going to take steps to make sure that doesn't happen. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, as long as this is true, I'm going to display some stuff in the console window. Do a console write line. First, just display a message. Okay, and it's just going to be a message I'm eating. Okay, so if I run this program, okay, I'm going to get basically an endless loop. Okay, you see how that's happening. Okay, so I'm going to close that, stop the program. Okay, so inside the loop, I'm going to have to take steps to make sure that doesn't happen. So I'm going to need to get some kind of feedback from the program user. So I'm going to then send a message or ask a question using console write, because I don't want this to go to a separate line. I don't want the cursor to be sitting by itself on a separate line. So I'm going to ask the question, are you full yet? And then I'm going to ask the user, our program user, to type yes or no. Okay, that's what we're doing for that. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to set remember my string full yet up here, the variable that was set to no. I'm going to basically use my console readline statement to put data in there so I can understand if our user is full of cheeseburger, basically. Okay. Now, it's not enough just to get their input using console readline and populating full with hopefully yes or no. What I'm going to also need to do is I'm going to need to use a conditional statement in here to make sure that we're not going to, that we're actually checking their answer, and we can evaluate. We can set our cheeseburger, our like cheeseburger boolean to some other different value. So I'm going to ask a question by using a conditional statement. If full yet, and I'm not sure exactly what they're going to be, how they're going to type it in. Maybe they'll put a capital, maybe they'll use capital letters. So just to be on the safe side, I'm going to use the toLower function. And it's going to temporarily make whatever they wrote to lowercase. Okay, I've asked them to type in lowercase values, but this is just to ensure that they actually do that, because users can make mistakes. So I'm going to ask the question, if full yes is equal to yes, full yet equal to yes, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reset my Boolean variable like cheeseburgers from true to false. Okay, I'm going to do that. And then hopefully, once the loop is done, I can just put a final message saying something like that. That was good. I'm full. Okay. Okay, I got my console readline statement here as the last statement of the program, which I did in advance. Okay, so let's just, from the beginning, let me me just refresh my, reset my comments. I set up my variables that we're going to use in our while loop, and here's our while loop. Okay, we're going to ask for user input, and here's where we're going to get the user input. Okay, and here we're going to evaluate our user input with our conditional statement. Okay, we're going to set our bool variable to false if they are finished eating. Okay, and this is our ending message outside when the loop is done, when the loop completes. Okay, so let's run this guy and let's see what happens. I'm going to hit my start button. Let's see what happens. Can pull that down so you can see it. Okay, so it says I'm eating. Are you full yet? I'm going to click no. Okay, I'm eating. Are you full yet? Now I'm going through the loop. Every time I click no, basically what's happening is that this is getting evaluated. Okay, if it doesn't evaluate to yes, we just go back up to the top of the loop. Okay, doesn't matter what I enter here. It's not no. It's going to go. If it's not yes, I mean it's going to go to the top of the loop. Okay, I've had enough to eat. I click yes. That was good. I'm full. So what happened was when I entered yes, I set my Boolean variable from true to false. So when we got back to the top of the loop, I like cheeseburgers was no longer true. Notice that all I have to do is just put in the Boolean variable. I don't have to say equal to anything or is it equal to true. Okay, it's going to be assumed that this is going to be set if you're using the Boolean variable name, it's automatically true. Okay, but you have to set it to false. Now I'm not going to ask you to do this in the lab. I only did this just to show you how a while loop works. Okay, and you can use that with anything, any kind of, you don't need to use a counter with a while loop. You can use other kind of conditionals or conditional expressions to run the loop. Okay, so I'll do a second one that's actually using a counter. Okay, so just below my ending, I'm good, I'm full line, I'm going to set up another while loop. I'm going to need to set up a counter, okay, because now while loops don't have counters in them. Only the for loops do. So I'm going to have to first define a counter outside of the loop, just on top before I start my loop. So I'm just going to use int I just because we're familiar with it, and I'm going to set that to 0. Okay, it's going to be an integer. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is start my while loop, and I'll just do a real simple one. While I is less than 10. Okay, I'm going to then print out the value of I. I just print it on the same line. I'll print out I, and then I'll also include maybe a space between each number. So I'll do that. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'll run the program really quickly. Let's see if that works. Oh, okay. Yes. I'm full. Oh, okay. Now I have a problem here. I have an endless loop. Okay, which I did deliberately. The reason that that's happening is because I haven't incremented my counter. Unlike the for loop, while does not have an automatic counter incrementing function inside of its parentheses, so we're going to have the responsibility of incrementing our counter inside the loop. Okay, so it's a little bit different. So the way it works is that if you're using a counter with a while loop, and again, I would probably recommend use a for loop, but to do this if you have a certain number of times. But again, either one is fine. They work the same way if you're using a counter. The only difference is you have to set up the counter outside the loop. Okay. The counter is checked every time the loop goes around the first time and every time after that. Inside the loop, you do what you